Hello everyone. I am Ted, and let's do a quick little painting here. I'm doing a little test of my camera as I having a hard time getting it to stay in nice focus while in OBS. Since I have this beautiful camera I bought this year, 4K camera, I'm going to try recording in 4K and see what I can do about making a pretty painting picture video. So, this is just a test here. I'm dropping in a quick little sky. Not really focused too much on quality, but sometimes it's hard not to do your best. So, let's just get some paint up on the canvas here and see what's what. Come back here with my big old brush and let's just soften all this. Work that blue into the crimson, get a nice soft transition, and then blend out the rest of the sky. I'm going to create a little bit more of the lavender. You can bring a little bit of color. Look at that, you get a little blue transition there. And I'll go through the process here. Let's clean a brush super quick. Checking out the audio. Good enough. Getting some paint up here on this 1-inch brush, a little bit of titanium white. And let's go ahead and tap in a basic cloud shape here. Something like that. And with the big old brush, just going to soften it. Anything but the outer edge. That top edge there. There we go. And what's one cloud without another? You know, clouds need a friend. There we go. That one picked up a little bit more of the alizarin crimson. Gave it a little pinkish cast, which makes sense with the pink sky there. Good enough. Now we'll take some of that crimson and some of that blue. Maybe just a touch more of the blue. Looking for a darker color here. Darker or purplish color. That's all we need. Don't really need too much of this. Let's see if I can show you that up there. Okay. And maybe we got ourselves a little offset mountain here. Pressing that paint into the fabric like that. Ugh. Getting a little tough with it. Now my students who I hollered at will probably be a little angry with me putting my finger up there. For good reason. I always tell my students, don't have your fingers out on the blade. Why is that? Well, people tend to push in with their fingers out on the blade, and while it's not too bad in this step, painters will know with experience here, you don't really want to inadvertently push in when we get to the highlighting there. A little bit too much pressure is going to make that highlight a little bit harder to work. So I always try to impress on my students, don't put your finger out there as much as possible. Once you have a little bit of experience, then you'll know how much pressure to add, and it's not as important. new students starting out, it can be a little intimidating, a little strong. All right, nice little mountain draw there. And let's just go ahead and soften it. Now this time I'm going to work from the bottom up, just to keep it nice and misty down here at the bottom. See, there we go. Now, with our knife, there we go. Cut off a roll of paint. Now is where we use the light touch and no finger on the blade, if at all possible here. Kind of give it a little wiggle. No pressure. I always find it helpful to keep that knife nice and clean so you can see what's what. Very light, just sort of grazing and skipping the knife, letting this paint just barely graze off. Now, before I move on to the shadow, maybe this little clink, clink needs a little bit of highlight right there. And let's make up a shadow color here, just for ease here. I'm going to take a little bit of that purple color and make my shadow with the purple. As long as it's darker than the highlight and lighter than the background, it's going to work. So let's give it a try. First off, I'll put a little bit of shadow on this. I like using the small edge here. Allows you to sneak into these areas a little easier. And then you can use the long edge for the bigger areas. There we go. Let's go ahead and add in a little extra little peak here. Mountains often have all sorts of ridges and extra things going on. Sometimes I put a shadow before I have enough highlight there, so I'd come back here and let's add a little highlight. Maybe this all just kind of connects. What do you think? I see it happening, so I'll go with it. Go with it. There it is. Look at that. Just drop in some highlight like that. Ooh, that's a big old swoopy swoop. As long as you follow the basic angles, you're going to get this three-dimensional effect. Now we got a little bit of shadow, maybe over here. I think it's time to use that little edge again. And any of these little tricky spots here, pull, find the right angle. Any of these little things over here, you can pick them out and all of a sudden you get all sorts of different little ridges and crevices, crevices, one of the two. There we go. All right. Now we'll create some mist. Creating a little bit of diffusion, as Bob would say. Not just trying to destroy, just trying to diffuse. There we go. A couple of crisscross strokes, diffuse the diffused bit even more. We've got ourselves a nice little mountain. Let's get rid of some of this here. Don't want anything with white on it. As we're moving into the foreground, things get darker. So let's make up, let's just use the rest of my red and blue here at just the right combination here for a nice dark purple. A little bit more on the blue side of purple. That'll happen. That blue is so much stronger. Maybe, before we do too much else, I'm going to take a nice clean 2-inch brush, and I'm just going to drop in a little color down here for my water. I don't know how much of this is going to be water, so I do a little bit more than I need, just so I have choices. Choices are good. Now, after I have that color in there, I can take the rest of it, and I'm going to add in, let's say 2 parts green, 1 part brown, and whatever purple I have left. And this is just an idea here. See what color we get. I know it looks black, but you can see when I pull the paint off, you see a little bit of residue. It's really more of a greenish brown. And if you wanted a little more brown, add in a little more brown. I even threw in a little dark sienna. It don't matter. Just looking for some volume here. I may not have enough paint. Maybe. To make sure that I have enough paint here, I might just change it up. Instead of making a bunch of spiky trees at the background, maybe I'll just make some foothills. That doesn't use as much paint. Getting some going here. Maybe we'll just make this go all the way down. There we go, all the way over. Okay. Then my trusty 2-inch brush. Let's just destroy the bottom here and sort of create some mist. Looking misty. And then with a couple of bristles, just going to lift straight up. Right up here at the top, pull in hundreds and hundreds of little tree toppers. And, maybe we'll have a little bit of land coming in here. It's a little closer to us. Some flat grassland, perhaps. We don't know. I haven't decided. Still trying to figure this out as I go here. Just tapping it in. Starting to work our way down into the dark areas here. Okay. Now, that brush just went right into the trash can. That's no good. Let's take a clean brush because I'm feeling lazy here. And I think I need just a tad more titanium white. I thought I had just the right amount, but I need just a touch more. So, with a small amount, very small, I'm going to touch, press in, pull down. You can always add more. If you do too much right off the bat, well, it's difficult to blend it away, depending, of course, how much undercolor, how much of that bluish, purplish undercolor you have. You can make it work sometimes. Other times it gets a little tough if you add too much at once. But if you just start with a little, you can add whatever is needed there. Now look at that, isn't that pretty? Some dark water. I do like that dark water. And then I bring my grassy grass down over and hide that. Something like that. Clean out my brush again. And one color I hadn't put out onto my canvas yet, palette yet, and canvas is a little bit of yellow. So I get that yellow out there. And I thinks, we'll just use the old fan brush. This is an old fan brush. Some nice dark green, brown color here. We don't want it too bright. If I want it bright, I can always make it brighter. So let's see here about tapping in some grass. You're going to be hearing that rattle going on for a while here. Sorry about that. And let's see, kind of just tap this in and working my way. I got more paint in here than you realize. And it just keeps mixing with that shadow, that undercolor here, and just keeps getting duller and duller the more I work my way down. I go back and reload the brush and it can get brighter and brighter again to whatever degree you want. Look at that, but I'm looking to keep this a little duller. There'll be some bright spots here, but look how this just fades down to that dark water. It's constantly picking up some of that dark yellow or greenish brown color we put on there, so that the highlights aren't so bold as I work my way down. It gives us a nice, interesting look there. When I come back up here, where that light is just a little bit brighter, gives us some variation of color. Brights and darks working together. You figure out which colors work for you. And if all else fails, if it's a little too bright, you can keep tapping it. If it's not bright enough, you can always go back over it and make it brighter. Isn't that cool? Now, I thinks. Kind of doing this painting on the fly here, trying to figure out what tools to use based on how much paint I have on the canvas. And since I don't have a lot of paint, might as well use it, right? A little bit of brown and brown. Now, again, I guess I should have explained myself a little clearer there. I didn't really have enough paint to do this with the knife unless I broke out the tube again, which you're more than welcome to do. But since I didn't have a lot on my palette here, I'm just going to bring some of this brown out with the fan brush instead. As long as you get enough on your brush here, kind of looks like an interesting dirt color. There we go. Now I'll take a little bit of white, whatever paint I still have in my brush. Look at that, I just pick up a little bit of white, and there's my highlight color. And let's just graze over it. Get some highlights on this ground, or dirt, or whatever we're calling it here. If you use the knife, it can look a little rockier, if you're looking for rock. That's like that, almost like beach sand look here. I'm going to go back into my yellow green mixture here. Get some paint right up on the tips of the bristle. And I'm going to bring out a little bit of this grass over the rock or dirt. It pushes that dirt underneath a little bit. Here and there, let that grass go right down to the water's edge. Helps create that depth and distance in our painting. Now, with our knife, a little bit of titanium white, let's put a little water line there. I'm just going to add the least amount of the brown mixture here just to make it a little off-white. I thought that maybe was a little too bright. Dull it down a little to match the scene. There we go. And that's an interesting little painting. I think, though, we could spice it up a little. I don't know how much time has passed here, but I think we got time for a nice evergreen tree. What would a painting in the Bob Ross style be without a nice happy tree? So, let's go ahead and drop one in. Lots of paint up in the brush. Let's try that once again there. Lots of paint up in the brush. We tap, we tap, we tap, 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 tappy tap, working down the tree. Now, I always tell my students here, you can make things taller, you can go back and adjust things, but try doing the whole tree before you try to fix something. There we go. And every tree needs a friend. Let's give him a little buddy. Nice dark color there. And, maybe we'll have a little bit of land here too. With a little bit of the liquid white, I'm going to thin down my cadmium yellow. Add in a smattering of the green. I get plenty of paint up here on my brush. let's create a little bit of highlight on this tree here. And I think that little buddy tree is closer. So you notice how I didn't put some highlight right there? Well, that's because when I highlight this guy, I'll put some highlight on it and make it look like this one's in front of that one. Now I'm going to dull this down with some of my darker color here, and maybe we'll create some nice dark grass here. With some brighter highlights. Sort of this smashy grass. Create some little things going on there. Look at that. I think we got ourselves a finished painting just like that. I'll sign this sucker a little bit later. I still haven't gotten a liner brush out of my packet here, but I will talk with you guys later. Thanks so much for watching.